Lola, can you tell me about your experience related to Borat, your personal experience?
I've been oblivious to Borat when I lived in Kazakhstan, back at home, because of course Borat was happening outside. I remember hearing the outrage, and I remember following the news. And at the time, it seemed like something that was not relevant to us, because when you're in Kazakhstan, it doesn't seem relevant. It just seems like some sort of comedy that's happening somewhere. And I didn't see the movie, so I didn't really worry about it. But it's not until I've met and talked to some of my Western friends, white friends, and mostly men, that I started realizing what sort of stereotypes the movie has used. So it was one of my friends who is a really good friend, but he was giggling, and he asked me, do we actually drink horse urine? That was my first memory. And I was like, wait a second, where is that coming from? And he said, well, that's what Sacha Baron Cohen says in Borat. He says that you Kazakhs drink urine. And I remember feeling really outraged. And I was like, no, of course we don't drink horse urine. We're not some sort of barbarians. We do have traditions, very rich cultural traditions around horses. And then, of course, I had a couple of friends tell me Jack Shemash, which they found hilarious. And of course I didn't. And I remember that feeling inside of me thinking, I don't like it. I don't feel good when people do that, even if it's good friends who I trust. So that was my first experience. Of course, after I moved out of Kazakhstan and moved to the UK, the experience has acquired a completely different dimension to it. Now, when I meet people, even friends in Britain, and of course, Great Britain is a very educated country. People here are well-traveled. People here, are well educated, and so I haven't felt that immediately. As the movie became more famous, I started actually. I noticed this lately. I pause before I say to people where I'm from, and I kind of look at them and I try to assess how likely are they to laugh at me back, not at me, but maybe at Kazakhstan. So, for example, if it's a person I don't know, I probably would not be forthcoming with information that I'm Kazakh. And sometimes even at work, I would probably pause and think, especially if it's like a younger person, because younger people tend to be more into this sort of thing. I don't know if it's a generalization or not. And I would pause before I would say where I'm from. So, and only recently I realized actually that this should not be like that. Nobody should pause before they say where they're from.
What happens to you on a personal level? Why do you pause?
I dread what can come after that. I dread the potential jakshemash, which is not even a Kazakh word. I dread the questions around, are women in Kazakhstan really prostitutes? Or do you really sleep with your fathers? Or do you drink horse urine? Or do you eat shit, or poop? If it's a person that I think, it's a target audience, or they will be aware of it, or they may be aware of it, I will try and not say that I'm from Kazakhstan, just to avoid all of that.
Well, you're a mother. I know you have a son. Your son is how old?
9 years old.
So tell me, are there any particular thoughts that you're thinking in regards to your son's potential experiences? Because I tell you what, I have had those experiences for at least 10 years after the first Borat came out. I was already here with the kids.
I was very lucky not to encounter any sort of serious harassment situations, which I know other Kazakhs have. So, but as soon as my child kind of came into a question, and he's half Kazakh, half Scottish, so he's half British, but he still looks Kazakh. He looks Kazakh. So obviously my child and also my nephew, who is also half Kazakh and half British and also looks Kazakh, I mean, they're studying at British schools. And with Borat now being so mainstream, and kids now having access to content which is beyond their years, I really dread and I really worry that somebody in his class, in my son's or in my nephew's class, will have seen this movie and will have, taken these jokes for real and will bully either my son or my nephew, and just say nasty things, which will make them question their heritage. So this is the thing that worries me the most, I would say. Yes.
I get a lot of comments saying, oh, why can't you laugh at yourself? It's just a comedy. What would you tell people like that?
Sacha Baron Cohen could have invented a country. He could have, like anybody else. I mean, Hollywood constantly does some sort of stunts, right? If they want to do it, they invent a name. And fair enough, it's still stereotyping, but they don't take symbols of a specific country like Sacha Baron Cohen did. He replicated everything precisely. And they don't then make fun of this specific country, which he is doing. So to me, it doesn't look like comedy. It looks like an attack. It looks like an attack on ethnic minority. Not many people, unfortunately, know that Kazakhs are predominantly Asian. And so what Sacha Baron Cohen is doing is yellow face. So not many people know that. But I think the biggest thing that bugs me in all of this is the double standard. Because if Borat was Chinese, Black or Jewish, that so-called comedy would have never seen the light of day. It would have been immediately banned and declared morally corrupt and racist, etc. And that double standards really bugs me. It's almost like Central Asian countries became this last vestige of, acceptable racist humor. I mean, you cannot laugh at Native Americans, you cannot laugh at Jewish, you cannot laugh at Black people, and all rightly so. But suddenly, that specific last part of the world is still allowed to be made fun of. And that's, I think, a bigger problem in Hollywood.
I personally think that they have no place to say, why don't you laugh at yourself? Because there's nothing of Kazakhstan, nothing of Kazakh, nothing of Kazakh culture or traditions in this movie. Sacha Baron Cohen created a stereotype for our people that our people now have to deal with on individual level. And we are being bullied and we are being harassed, and our children are afraid to say they're from Kazakhstan. Adults are afraid to say they're from Kazakhstan. How is this not racist?
If you are going to culturally appropriate somebody's culture and make crude, horrific jokes of that, then no. How is this different from blackface? How is this different from Redskins? How is this different from singing about Wuhan virus, which is something apparently Sacha Baron Cohen is going to do? He is extremely racist. It's very clear. I mean, it's clear to us. It's not clear to the Western white, mostly male audience at the moment. But this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to educate them and say, listen, that's not okay. It's not okay to do this. It's not just comedy. And I think Misha Fraser in Independent said it really well. She said, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't remember exact quote, but she said, he is racist and he is sexist, and it's not funny.
Absolutely. And to you, my fellow Americans that tell me to laugh at myself, when you're enjoying those jokes, when you're laughing at the character Borat, when you make a joke to me or to any of the other members of Kazakh American or Kazakh Western society, just so you know, you're not laughing at my culture, you're not laughing at my nationality, you are laughing at the stereotype, and therefore you being extremely, extremely racist.
Whenever we're being told to laugh at ourselves, I always say, and I would say that, I'd say, no, I'm not going to laugh at my ethnicity being laughed at and mocked and stereotyped and racially abused. This is not funny. I would turn around the conversation. It's you who needs to wake up to this being a problem. And it's you who needs to be educated about what actually Kazakhstan is and about the whitewashing that Mr. Cohen is performing and all the, that what he does is basically yellow face. But I think what he does is, the reason why his audience is so blind to this is he's very smart. He sells his racism in this very clever package. He puts it into this sort of liberal agenda. Oh, look, we are fighting ignorance. with racism. Oh, forget racism. Just look at us fighting ignorance. You know, he focuses his audience on that bit, and he then allows them to almost say, oh, forget this racist bit. That's okay. As long as we have noble goals, that's fine. It's okay to laugh at this ethnic minority. It's it's not acceptable. It should not be the case. And all those people who tell us to relax and enjoy the comedy, no. You educate yourselves and you learn about why this is a problem. We're not going to laugh at this. This is not funny.
It is a problem. It becomes a problem when on individual level, people experience all kinds of emotional trauma. They experience actual real life drama, the family drama. When children are scared and being bullied, it's no longer just a joke. It's no longer just a joke. It becomes a huge problem for us.
I must say, after first Borat, I thought, oh, I had this kind of mixed feeling, like many Kazakhs, I would imagine, did. Oh, should we be okay with them laughing at us, you know, and oh, maybe okay, white people know better, right? Let white people laugh. But that was 2006, Gia, and now it's 2020. And I think what Mr. Cohen did not count on is how many Kazakhs now live worldwide, integrated into the different communities and different countries. And, you know, we're not blind. We're watching how other racial justice movements are achieving their goals. And why is it okay for people of other ethnicities to fight for their rights, not to be mocked or laughed or racially stereotyped? And it's not okay for us to do the same. I mean, come on, the whole cast and the whole crew of Borat is who? White men.
And white women.
And that's what's hard to believe, is that it's 2020. We've been through that before, and he is allowed to do it so openly and so publicly, and also in such a tremendously racist way, and he gets away with it. And he gets paid to do that. That's the worst bit. And of course, you know, Kazakhstan had multiple attempts at ethnic erasure from Soviet times. When it happens like this, and it's done by Hollywood and a white celebrity, it brings up all sorts of intergenerational trauma that we had to deal with before. And it's like going through that again.
I wanted to thank you for bringing up the subject of a post-traumatic, I don't know, it's like a national level post-traumatic stress disorder. During Soviet Union, we were oppressed. I remember clearly in 1986 being scared on my own land, to being scared for my life because I was Kazakh. Because of how horrible the oppressive regime was in 1986. I don't know if you remember, there were massive riots. I never truly recovered from that experience. It was really, really scary. And now with Borat, let me tell you, my first emotional response was like, oh my God, not all over again. Because when someone else who hasn't had this experience goes through the pause like you do before saying they're from Kazakhstan is one thing. But what I personally experienced before I pause to say that I'm Kazakh is I personally experience ache in my heart.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
That pain never goes away. It doesn't.
You're absolutely right. And that word oppression is key here. It's exactly that. And people who haven't went through that, like British people or American people, they won't know. You know who will know? People of color. Native Americans know that feeling. Black people know that feeling. Asian people know that feeling. Ethnic minority people will have this feeling, which is why it's not surprising that majority of articles that came out to support our cause in mass media like CNN and Variety and The Times and Independent has been mostly written by people of color, by journalists of color, because they understand.
There are some really well-educated, incredible people who are white men that are supporting us as well. And but you are completely correct. The majority, like if you have to generalize, majority of support is coming from minorities themselves. Like for example, Care National, which is a
Absolutely.
organization that is fighting for the rights of Muslim people. They had they came in to endorse us and support us. There are other groups that are coming in to support us. They are all minorities, all of them, because they know exactly, they have had that experience.
Precisely. So, you know, a lot has changed from 2006, between 2006 and 2020. And it's thanks to movements like Black Lives Matter and Stand Against Hatred and Hate is a Virus and, you know, Native American movement. We Kazakhs obviously are not living in some sort of bubble. We see all of this. We learn from this. We get inspired by this. And we just decided, you know what, enough. We are not going to be the butt of jokes, the last vestige of acceptable racist comedy. No, thank you. You know, to all these people who think, who don't understand and who don't see beyond, this is the simple test to see why Borat is a problem. Imagine that instead of a Kazakh, he would have made a character out of a black person, a Jewish person, or a Native American person, and then had exactly same types of jokes, like about eating animal poop or drinking horse urine or being incestuous or stereotypical or aggressive, etc., etc. Does it feel right, dear white person? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't feel right. Then how come it feels right when the person in question is of an Asian Kazakh ethnicity? It is the same exact thing. It is wrong. It is racist.
Imagine that it is your mother, it is your sister, it is your daughter that is getting the vulgar jokes and being stereotyped for prostitute, for example. Imagine that she has to answer whether she sleeps in the cage or not. And imagine if it is you who is applying for a job and being stereotyped for Borat as a barbaric, racist person.
Yeah.
And highly undesirable for a job, therefore.
Yeah. That's precisely the problem.
Now, I know it is hard to walk a mile in someone else's shoes. You can never feel the way that I feel because you're not me.
Exactly.
But try to place the people that you love the most in a situation that we have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then enjoy the comedy.
Because a lot of people who attack us, when you look at the social media profiles, they are activists, aren't they? They are pro-liberal values. They're fighting with Black Lives Matter. They are supporting all these movements. Then how come you're supporting Black people fighting for racial justice? You're supporting, you know, people of color fighting for racial justice. But when a white celebrity makes fun of an Asian ethnic minority, how come you find that hilarious? And you think that that Asian ethnic minority should be happy that their country is being put on a map? How is it different? How is it different from blackface? How is it different from Karens, which you guys, you know, absolutely condemn? Then why is Borat okay? You know, that's the big problem. However, just looking at what Hollywood is doing in general, you know, how much is being invested in diverse cinema, how much diverse directors and actors are being supported, Oscars values that the Academy announced, the Golden Globes, and all of that happening, you know, BAFTA announcing their values to do with diversity. I really hope that Borat is the last example of such rampant public open racism, racial hatred sold for profit. And I really hope that as humanity, we're ready to awaken to not singling out any minority of any type, be it women, be it gay people, be it some ethnic minority that is still okay to laugh at. And that I hope we move on to the world where content is not offensive, not racist, and nobody has to look at the screen and go, oh my God, and feel discomfort and offense and trauma.
And I would finish this by saying, I think the biggest problem with this movie is that the people don't see the problem with it.
Precisely.